Welcome to Chronic Curiosity, where we have real conversations with real people, from everything to anything, in attempts to facilitate dialogue with our fellow humans, and hopefully your curiosity as well as ours. If you can withstand the show, we ask, most importantly, that you tell your friends and family, but also you can pick up some merch or just donate to the show at chronic-curiosity.com in USD or Bitcoin. If you feel so obliged, you can give us a good rating and follow on whatever podcast platform you so choose. But please feel free to reach out to us on the website or the socials, which can also be found on the website, chronic-curiosity.com. And here we go. It's all right. Do a little quick little power hour. Power hour. Oh, that's not good. Not a good one. Yeah, man. A lot of crazy shit going on.
There's definitely some things going on.
I don't know what to do with them. That's my problem, like we were talking about. I'm not sure what to do with it all. We don't have to spend a bunch of time on it, but I at least wanted to address it. The whole Ukraine-Russia deal. I don't know. What if, do you have any... No.
Nope.
No initial thought.
Not touching it.
You never do.
Nope.
God damn it, Tony.
I've got, I guess I can't really say empathy, sympathy for the people of Ukraine, so, or anybody that's part of a war for that matter. So
yeah,
I've seen some of the pictures and stuff, and so
yeah, I think that's a big piece of it is, and maybe I'll preface everything that because I have no idea what the hell is going on, and I'm not obviously a geopolitical expert by any means whatsoever, or a historian by any means also, because there's a lot of history.
Oh yeah.
I think it was my kid that was asking about it, or somebody, and I was trying to be like, just trying to understand or trying to portray that like there's so much history in that part of the world. Like we lose not only, just through our lens, we've talked about a lot of like American history.
Yeah.
We think as a general statement, like America thinks like, oh, we can never fail because, we're this great superpower. We've talked about that and the histomap and how long we've been, our history is compared to the human history and, all of those things. We haven't been around that long. We forget that like other countries have been around for a long, long time. And like maybe the country in its name hasn't always been there, but the people living there, the conflicts that are going on there, and not only that, but like the location to each of them.
Yeah.
You could fit like, I'm just spitballing here, but if you took like the size of the United States and overlaid it into like that general like Eastern Europe, or even just like that southeastern like Europe area, like you have how many different cultures, languages, histories, peoples. I have no idea. I couldn't count them. Like even some countries have multiple like areas that speak different languages, and different cultures.
Yeah.
So it's like, and those are like the size of like states here. So like we have no like real grasp of just how things work over there and how the culture is and how the history and everything that's going on. Like it just, at least I don't. I know enough to know that I have no fucking clue.
True.
Is basically what it. But to that point, anytime anyone's involved in war, it's always the civilians that get caught up in the mess. It's always that those are the people that really take the brunt of it, and that's the heartbreaking thing of it. I think. It's just I'm not gonna. I almost said if it's happening. It is. Obviously it's happening. But like, I guess my question is like to the extent and what are the reasons and whys and hows, and I don't know if we'll ever get an answer for that because it just seems so convoluted and so gray, and you get somebody saying this and somebody else is saying this, and it's like, well, those two things don't match up at all.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's going on? And
Yeah. I mean, I talked briefly to Glenn, so.
Right. And that's what I side messaged you before about, Glenn Glickberg, who's been on the show a couple times. He told his story from moving from Ukraine, what, at 10 or 12?
12, I think,
12, yeah. So it's like, man, obviously things were a little different back then, like he said, but it's still, you realize you don't, like, a country can't change that much in, 30 years or, whatever it is. So it's like, I think maybe that's what it is. We have to first, particularly as Americans, you have to step back, and everybody is so quick to throw a judgment onto something and well, they shouldn't be doing this, or this is what should be happening. Like, whoa, bitch, slow your roll. Like, we have to realize that we know, unless you're some kind of historian and, like, you've been into, like, that's what you've done, is like look at this area and follow it. Just stop. Because the vast majority of Americans don't know what the fuck's going on in their own country, let alone a country halfway across the world. So, like, let's, if nothing else, like, let's just take a deep breath and, slow it down a little bit. I told somebody the other day, I was like, because it was some post or something on social media or something, a news article, and it was like, that's exactly why on our social media, like, stuff, I try to be very careful about what I share and, like, what it is and how I share it and how I portray it and what I say about it. Because it's like, you have no idea. There's been, I shared that, I don't know if I shared it with you. I shared that video of there's like looks like a video starts, but it looks like it could be fucking Ohio.
Okay.
Looking at these backyards, it looks like wintertime, just shitty fenced in backyards, whatever. And all of a sudden, you see this fucking fighter jet coming, and they're like filming out the window. And all of a sudden, you see this fucking fighter jet just screaming through the air, and then it, like, deploys like a missile or two, and it's, I mean, maybe 100 feet off the ground, and it's like, it's being reported that it was from Ukraine. It was a Russian, fighter jet, whatever. I have no idea, but regardless of the circumstances of when, who, and why that was happening, fuck, is that terrifying?
Yeah.
Like, it is. You haven't seen that video?
No, I haven't.
It's absolutely terrifying. And like, maybe we can. Oh yeah, I forgot I switched it because we're operating without the castle today. I don't know if I can find it. I don't know if that's the Phil. I don't know if I'd pull it up. Oh yeah, Russian fighter jet bombs house in Ukraine, and I don't even know if that's what it is. That's the biggest thing.
Що? Я не бачу. Ой, Боже.
Like, what? You see this? I'll switch this over. So you can see this. It's just, I mean, it looks like a backyard in some, normal neighborhood, and then you see this jet come out of nowhere.
Ой, Боже.
Fire some missile. I don't know. Is it photoshopped? I don't know. Did it happen? Are they just bombing Ukrainians' houses? No clue. Or is this from some entirely different place? No idea. But I think there's a lot of that going on where I've just today I've seen, I would say probably, because I've been kind of keeping up with it like I usually do.
Yeah.
I would say 75% of the visuals that are coming out of this, and they're used for headlines and stories and, different things, are either being used multiple times for different scenarios, or are confirmed now that they're like pictures from a year, 2 years, 4 years ago. And it's like, man, what am I supposed to do with that information? That makes me real skeptical.
Yeah.
So there's so much gray area to everything. I think that's the biggest thing I could say is just like, look, we need to take a step back here and try to think about, put these pieces together. Like, I posted another video that made it was Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire, where he's like screaming in the phone, show me money.
Yeah.
It was like, I've been trying to follow the science, but it keeps trying to show me the money. So it's like the point of that is just like there's so many different things from so many different areas and perspectives that, all right, hold on, let's take this information, let's see what it is, let's break it down, let's look at it before we form an opinion. Now I know it's hard because as soon as you say that, somebody's like, oh, so what, you think Putin's justified by bombing and invading Ukraine? It's not what I said. No idea. What the? Some dinging on me. That's weird. Huh. I don't know. Anyways.
Sounds like a bomb's about to go off.
Yeah, right? That was weird.
It'll be interesting to see what, because Glenn still has family over there, so he's got a cousin in Odessa, and I know that they said that there were like Russian troops on the ground in Odessa, right. Which, I mean, I can imagine that being a port city, which would be kind of a strategic location that you
absolutely
want.
Yeah, and that's what I would love. I mean, obviously, like I feel for the people there, and even then the soldiers. Even we'll break it down to some of the soldiers, like even some of the Russian soldiers. Like I'm sure, I would think that this isn't gonna work. There we go. I would think that to an extent, there's people that are in military, whatever it might be, that there's things that you're ordered to do, and sometimes it's like, I don't know if this is the right decision, but so trying to break it down to each individual's perspective and experience through something like that, it's impossible to think about, but you have to try. And his family, and that's just, I'd love to talk to him, but like it's like being like, what are people like Glenn going through that have family over there? It's like the uncertainty and the unknowing of everything. So like, but those are the people that you would think like, all right, let me talk to the people that are actually there.
Well, let's talk to him then, man. I'll talk to him and see if with Elon, was it the Starlink or whatever?
Yeah,
dude, I wonder if we could get him on the podcast.
That would be wild.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, like I just love to get a firsthand perspective.
Well, horse's mouth, man. Like you said, like it's difficult to trust a lot of these things when they're from years ago, or it's disinformation, or you don't know what they're doing. And so, if we could actually talk to someone that's kind of living it, it'd be pretty cool to be able to give that to the listeners.
Yeah, and to get their perspective, But so I just, I feel for the people, and I can never imagine what that's like. I think that was that video that what it did it for me was like, could you imagine? Like, and I just stood like, after I saw it, like I'm looking out my back window, and I don't know if I told the story. I made a joke about it on the socials about the other day. I saw, well, it's not confirmed. I believe I saw a fighter jet fly over the house, and we live close to an airport, and we have some different, some bases that are relatively close by as far as, helicopters and airplanes and stuff go. So occasionally we'll see like C-130s floating around, and I live, real close to a smaller airport.
Yeah.
They'll like the Chinooks, they'll come in and they'll do like touch and goes and stuff like that. Not uncommon. And, I've seen, jets up in, because we live close to a couple of major cities. I've seen them way up in the sky doing their things. But the other day I was inside the house and I heard just like, it was like a rumbling. And I'm like, man, like, I'm used to like light flight helicopters and helicopters flying low and single engine planes, stuff like that. I'm like, that's a plane, but that's not a normal plane. I said, that's a jet. I said, man, I was like, that sounds really low for it to be a jet. I'm used to helicopters being low. I was like, man, that jet sounds really low. By the time I walked out the back door, which was maybe 6 steps, and looked up, it took me a couple seconds to find the contrail, not the chemtrail, the contrail. And then I thought it was the contrail, and then I realized it was exhaust. And I look, and like I see like black exhaust, like, and saw this thing moving, and it had to be well over the speed of sound. And I'm like, and it was low. It was probably, if I had to guess, it was probably maybe, if I had to throw a number out there, maybe 1,000 feet. And that might sound like a lot, but 1,000 feet for a jet moving that fast, within a couple seconds, it was in my periphery and gone. And all I could see was exhaust. It was like, holy shit, like I've never seen anything quite like that. Like I felt like I was at an air show.
Yeah.
That's what it was like. So like, but imagining like filming, watching out your back window, your side window, and seeing a fucking fighter jet fly over at maybe 200 feet and throwing rockets out. Holy fucking terrifying. Like that just alone, like fuck me. Wild. I don't know what to do. My brain doesn't even know what to do with that. Like that imagination, you know what I mean? And so people like going through that, tanks rolling through your neighborhoods and shit is, I can't have enough, sympathy for people that are going through that stuff. But that being said, there's a lot of weird things around this, and I just don't know what to make of it. So I'm just going to kind of spew some stuff out there and things to think about, because there's a lot. Like we said, the images and like some of the new stuff they're posting all over, like there's a bunch of images of like the Ukraine president, like all, full on decked out, and he's put out some videos, like live videos of him like talking. I get it, but like a lot of the pictures that they're using of him and like the mayor of Kiev. I don't know if you've seen him all decked out, and it's some like machine gun or some kind of.
That's the dude that was the MMA fighter, right?
Yeah, I think he's like the mayor of Kiev now or something.
There's like that. Two brothers and
yeah. So like, but that picture was from like 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
That's an old picture, which I get. You're just finding a picture to create a story, whatever. But I think the point is that when we look at those pictures and look at those things, and you go, oh, like you put that image in your head, like this is what's happening. That's not exactly what's happening. It might be, but you can't say it is, because these pictures are not representative of them now, because they're, documented old pictures. I don't know if you've heard of the ghost of Kiev.
I don't think so.
He's the fighter. It's a story been going around. It's been pushed by quite a few politicians, and Crenshaw is one of them. Maybe we can get into my reserves about Crenshaw are getting deeper and deeper. Reservations, rather, not reserves. My reservations about Crenshaw and Gabbard are getting destroyed.
Tulsi too?
Yeah, Tulsi's making me nervous.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's not good. But going back to that, like there's been a story going around that they call it the ghost of Kiev.
Okay.
That is this fighter pilot that's supposedly, and that one day shot down like 6 Russian fighters. And like there's a video of it that's going around. This guy blowing up this plane blowing up a couple fighters. It was a fight simulator footage. Had nothing to do with this at all. So like, maybe did that happen? I have no idea. But I know that footage is fucking fake. So it's like, how much of, if what you're giving me is like to get, because what all it is it's that we talked about that social media, like that dopamine response. So you're seeing these things, you're like, oh my God. So that's like when I saw this video, the one I talked about, the fighter jet in this neighborhood. For all I know, like I've seen some really good like footage and like deep fake stuff and photoshopping. Like that could be 2 completely different videos of a fight, like a fighter jet, and they superimpose it over this neighborhood. And maybe it was, obviously like there's screaming and stuff that happens, and like there's video shaking, but that could be, I've just seen some wild stuff. I just saw a video today of, it looks like this like little 2-year-old who's, it looks like he's standing on the outside of a gate, and the gate is on a cliff. And then behind him, it's like this huge waterfall. And it looks like this little like 2-year-old's like barely holding on to this gate on the side of this cliff. And he's like walking, like he almost trips and stumbles and like holds on to the rails. And it's like, oh my God, this little kid's going to fall off this cliff. Well, then in the end of the clip, they take it all away and they show you that he's actually walking on a sidewalk, just on the opposite side of the fence, and they Photoshop the road and everything out and put in this whole like cliff and waterfall, and it looks fucking real.
Jeez.
It's wild. So it's like, you have to look at these images, and you have to have a little bit of hesitancy to just buy it, to just believe it all. Because there's so much out there. Like you're like, oh, people just want to retweet it, or they want to share it. And it's like, all right, let's put this into perspective. Is this real? If you can't say, I took this video, I know it's real, maybe you should be cautious with it.
Sure.
But there's a lot of that's going on. And then you consider like the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, like, not that this is a bad thing, but it's funny. It's not funny. Like, here we go. So we already talked about how bad, how terrible war is and how much we feel for these people. So preface everything with, that piece of humanity that like we feel for these people, but we're going to move on and talk about some different things. So all that within context, but so Zelensky, he used to be an actor and he was a comedian that, I don't know if you know this. So he was on a show.
He's like the Ukrainian Donald Trump is what you're saying?
Even better. He was the lead actor in a comedy show that he was the president of Ukraine. And then he becomes years later
the real president.
The president of Ukraine. Super weird. I have no idea what kind of bearing that is, but it's like, all right, that's fucking wild. Funny, hilarious. And it's like, oh my God, this is like Donald Trump, but this guy just seems to be a little better at his job, maybe, or at least a better actor. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's some weird things there. And then like he spent a lot of time at the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Not a lot of time. He's been at the World Economic Forum, which is concerning, which is where Crenshaw and Gabbard come into. So, and like with the whole, Burisma and Biden thing and Hunter Biden and all the things we're not allowed to talk about. And the fact that it was Zelensky, that the phone call that Trump had with Zelensky trying to investigate Hunter and the Bidens, right? That got him impeached. That was the first time, right? Wasn't it?
Oh,
it was that phone call, him trying to pressure. They were saying that he was trying to pressure Ukraine into like basically lying for him and getting Biden and them in trouble in 2016. It wasn't, I think, like the whole, like all this and all the Russian collusion thing. Like that's every single time somebody like says something that politically that somebody doesn't like, it's always, oh, they're a Russian, they're a Russian asset or it's Russian collusion.
Yeah.
That's what Hillary said. And I'll stop here for a second. And if you haven't heard the show and heard me say that I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, never voted for him. So it's not like I'm trying to like spew some Trump, whatever. Like if you want to, I get why people like him. I understand it. Just personally, just trying to put that disclaimer out there that like, I'm not just trying to, spew some rhetoric for Trump, but like, so Hillary just came out that they've discovered that she was spying on him in the White House during like before and after his presidency. So like that's no good. And then the same people that have accused Trump of colluding with Russia are the same ones impeaching him for talking to Ukraine and trying to like whatever that situation is. I don't need to dive into it because I don't know about it, but it's enough to like, hey, look at these things. Like these are weird coincidences. All these people are, supporting Ukraine, and
sounds like they're not really coincidences.
Yeah, that's the problem I have. It's like, well, once you have so many coincidences, like
they fail to be coincidences.
Yeah. So, but what the tie is, I don't know. But that's the point. Is we just have to stop making quick assumptions and decisions on things because we've talked about Operation Northwoods. Like are we just like, is that the goal for the United States, is just to get into a war with Russia? Like that's, I feel like that's the only thing we've been trying to do for the last like 60 years. It's like, we just really need to get in war with Russia. Why? I don't get it. I don't know. Is it oil? Is it because I saw something that Putin had like over 850 billion dollar equivalent stockpiled in like gold and other currencies and stuff, and that like that's kind of the joke about the sanctions. Like all these sanctions we're putting on them, yeah, it's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt the civilians more than anything, though.
When you say sanctions, explain that.
Yeah, so obviously I'm not a
like what exactly?
So basically, like what they're doing, like they locked down a few of the banks. They're like the big Russian banks that like are connected with these Russian oligarchs, and they have so all this money that's flowing around the world that's coming out of Russia and Russia's using for different things. They put like blockades on them. Like, we're not going to accept any money coming from this Russian bank. Like, sorry, that means they can't sell or buy anything outside of Russia.
Yeah.
So that creates a geopolitical problem and that commerce type piece of it. So it's basically creating financial hardship for your enemy, in a sense, to like, hey, if you don't stop, well, then we're not going to buy your products and we're not going to sell you ours. Meanwhile, at the same time that happened, China announced that it would officially accept Russian wheat products and like stuff and shipments. You know, they're not exactly, and they just did a vote at something about, I don't know, it was basically some kind of bill going through the UN and blah blah blah, whatever. But like Russia was like vetoed it because they're part of it, and they said we don't want anything like this to go through. And then the only other people that didn't vote for it was China. And they just said, yeah, we're not voting. So like, there's some weird stuff going on there. Like, but that piece doesn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't, not even a second does it surprise me that China's gonna, they not necessarily support Russia, but it'll be like, not our fight, motherfuckers. Like, are you gonna leave us alone for a little while? Sounds good. And then, of course, at the same time, all that you see like trickled through the news that China had a bunch of fighter jets and boats in Taiwan space. So it's like, I don't know. They're gonna. There's just, I guess I see so much of it happening all at once, and then like you see the Democrats or the left, whatever. I don't even know what the fuck to call them anymore. The left is like full on like, Russia's terrible. Putin's a bad person. We need to support Ukraine. We need to do everything we can to help them out. And then the right's like real torn because, the right loves their wars. The Republicans love blowing shit up. But then like some of them are like, wait a minute, like maybe this is why like they tried to impeach Trump because he was trying to clean up the deep state in the swamp. Like, I don't fucking know anymore, people, but something's fucking weird. And it's just too much random shit for a country that like that in that area. So you go, why this country? There's a lot of reasons. I just can't sift through all of it, but maybe I'll be able to point some things out so people like, oh, I didn't hear that, or give them the curiosity to dig into it themselves. But you have the whole Biden conflict. I mean, there's pictures of, Lindsey Graham and Amy Klobuchar over there with the past president that people will say that we, just happened to overthrow the Ukrainian government in 2014. You can look into that yourself, for probably oil reasons. Sounds familiar. Like, what was that? Gaddafi? That was probably because of oil. Saddam? Probably because of oil, because they stopped purchasing oil in dollars. Well, Russia starts saying, hey, we're going to start using some other currencies. Well, that's not good for the US dollar because the only thing backing up the US dollar is its power and its oil. It's all falling apart real fast. I don't know any of those, things connect, but it's an awful lot of coincidences.
Yeah.
I think Ukraine is like one of the, I saw another thing, I don't know how true it is, but they're talking about basically all of its, like rare earth potential, like like the oil, all the commodities and things that are in that ground. They're just like, oh, I get it. At least I get why, if that's a reason. That's all it's always been, is a fight for materials and supplies. I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of things that just don't fit right. And in the outrage of, because you get a vibe. I was talking to somebody about this too, about, they had mentioned something to me because I had presented a couple of different things to them. And they said, well, I totally get with the show that you're doing, that you want to be informed. And I said, yeah. I said, honestly, I follow more social media and news and stuff like that I don't necessarily agree with than I do anything else.
Yeah.
Because I know what to expect. Like, we've talked about, we grew up in a rural area. I know what to expect from the diehard Republicans.
Sure.
The country boy Republic. I get it because I grew up around that my whole life. I know what to expect from them. Like Tucker Carlson, I don't watch his shit because I can expect. I know what he's gonna say. I get it. So like, all right, let me like follow like the real hardcore other views. So then I can get some kind of comprehensive view on things. and it's all fucking chaos right now. Nobody like it's funny to see like a whole block of people that are typically so like anti-war to be like, yeah, let's go to war with Russia. Excuse me, bitch? Like Russia? Like all the places. Let's not do that because, you know, they have more nuclear weapons than we do. And it was funny. I saw someone mention too, like, you know, I was concerned, but now realizing that like Russia has like more nuclear weapons than we do. Now I'm really concerned. Well, I think it's fair to say that we alone have enough nuclear weapons to basically blow up the earth. So you only need enough. Like you don't need more. You just need enough. And we have plenty of nuclear weapons to wipe us all out. So any type of war is scary in itself. But I don't know. It's all real weird, especially when you start tying in like the facts that have come out about Hillary spying on Trump and then like saying that he was a Russian asset. And then he talked to the Ukraine president, and that's the conversation that got him impeached. And then now everybody's like full on, I don't know. My brain just goes all the places tone. I don't know what to do with it. Yeah. no help out. No help.
No, bro, you're not gonna catch anything from me.
Yeah. And then the icing on the cake, which really was like, all right, solidified. I should be questioning everything here. Is I saw a 5 tweet like thing from George Soros, like full on backing Ukraine and how we need to go in there right now. We need the UN's full force. I'm like,
I'd say that's a giant red flag.
Giant. Like if there's one red flag you could have, it's George Soros. I'm not saying there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that, you know, he's a lizard alien or whatever. Like I'm not going that far. Never would. But he's funded some not so great things in the past. And I'm sure currently. So like when you have people like that are saying, oh, we should go to war. Yeah, because you can fly anywhere you want with your billions of dollars. You don't have to worry about being fucking nuked in your little town of Indiana or, you know.
I mean, you might have to fly up to Mars to not get nuked depending on how bad it gets.
That's true. I mean, maybe it's at Antarctica base.
Oh, jeez.
Man, I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. At this point, Tony, I'm starting to lend it some credence. Maybe there is a secret base in Antarctica that all the rich people go to. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of point being there's a lot of stuff that is going on with this that I just really encourage people to not assume real quick and take a step back. If you want to have it like I can't remember who it was asking me about it. I said, I don't have an opinion on the Russia-Ukraine thing. It's because I just don't have enough knowledge to even try to have an opinion. My opinion is war sucks and the civilians and the military men and women that are, you know, doing those actions are the ones that are paying the price. That I know for sure. And that sucks. And there's no reason that we should be killing each other. Other than that, fuck, man, I'm lost.
Guess we'll see.
I guess we'll see. I'm not excited. When I saw that today they started reporting that that Putin like escalated his nuclear defense protocol, it's like, oh, that's not good. Not good at all. That makes me nervous. It's not. So, what if they start a nuclear war and then the Great Awakening comes true and they have a fake alien invasion to stop us from a nuclear war? And they use the fake alien invasion to bring in the New World Order. It's that theory, honestly, isn't looking that crazy anymore.
I don't know that anything's looking that crazy anymore.
What do you think about like what the World Economic Forum keeps talking about the Great Reset and everyone's gonna one currency and you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, like all this shit, and it's like, and I've heard about the fake alien. I've seen stuff about the fake alien invasion now for a couple of years. I don't know if you heard anything about. Have you ever seen? So there's a theory out there. I don't know if it's the Q people or whatever. It's, but they say there's going to be a fake, like our power, like our elite governing whatever body that's not the governments, but like all of the Rothschilds and all those things, all the Illuminati, they're going to stage a fake alien invasion to essentially put the world under like martial law, because it's what's the only worse thing than a Russia and United States hot nuclear war. Well, obviously aliens that could vaporize us all, right? So we have to stage this fake alien invasion in order to come together and take over the world and be able to basically martial law and just take everyone's assets and everything else. I'm like, God damn, that's when I first heard that like a year or two ago. I'm like, these motherfuckers are smoking some good shit. Yeah. Now I'm like, God damn it, these motherfuckers better not be right, because it's sliding that way. It's just the way it intensified so quickly. That's
why we've seen more and more of the TikToks, bro.
What do you mean?
The UFO.
Oh, the TikToks. Oh, TikToks, yeah. I think you're saying TikToks.
No, not TikToks.
I was like, what about you? Been watching TikTok videos?
No, I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just weird. It's just really weird.
So it's something.
Even for my love of craziness,
oddities, yeah.
It's I don't know what I can't call it anymore.
Oh, so expound on Crenshaw and Gabbard a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So I think I said on the show that when last election came through, I decided finally that I was going to vote again.
Oh.
Because I decided if I don't vote, if I don't participate in this fiasco, then I don't necessarily have a right to bitch about it, right?
True.
And I've kind of held to that for forever, because I just never voted, and it was like, I'm not going to bitch about it. But here I am bitching about it, so I had to vote. And I got there and I couldn't decide between Trump and Biden, because I knew I wanted to walk away, I guess feeling, I don't know if feeling good about what I did is the right way to frame it, but feeling confident that I did the best that in with myself that I could do. So I wrote in Dan Crenshaw and Tulsi Gabbard, which was the Unity 2020 ticket from Brett Weinstein.
Yeah.
Brett Weinstein. At that time, I was like, you got, Navy SEAL, conservative on the right, you got Tulsi Gabbard, who was military as well on the left, more democratic, but level-headed. They both seemed kind of level-headed. They both seemed like they were, kind of played the part somewhat well. So that was the best I got. And then a little while later, I realized more and more, like some of the stuff that Crenshaw was putting out, like, it's like, man, like this guy seems like he's really riding the Republican coattails for that purpose. And some of this stuff, I'm like, all right, like he's really riding that Republican train real hard. And I get it. You got to pander to your crowd.
Sure.
Blah, 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 whatever. But there's just some stuff that was like, I don't know if I'd vote for him again, because it's just the way he just started rubbing me after I did, got to know him, I guess, quote unquote, got to know him more.
Well, where was his net worth on that chart you sent me?
Yeah. So we'll get to that. So then I had somebody mention to me that he was mentioned by the World Economic Forum as one of the upcoming global leaders. And I'm like, what? Like, because I had known about the World Economic. If anybody doesn't know about the World Economic Forum, just go on their website and do some perusing. Make your own decision. But if you ever heard the Great Reset and think that that's some kind of QAnon conspiracy, no, they talk about it on their website.
Well, there's a book written about it too.
And then the guy wrote a book about it. Like, look, folks, like you guys are saying like the quiet things out loud. Like maybe you should dial this back a little bit. Or they're just taking the Peterson approach of pushing a little bit and then stopping, and then pushing a little bit and stopping. Next thing you know, you end up, not in the same position you were. But so I talked to somebody that was like, no, this was a military person as well, military family that is basically pretty diehard, like support the military and support the the troops and the families and whatnot. And they were like, no, not that guy. Like, look into this, that, whatever. I'm like, really? I was like, I haven't heard this. So I dug into a little bit. And, they say like the World Economic Forum's like global leader list was something like that. He says that it's a list that's just created by the World Economic Forum.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily something that he's working with or like connected with.
Yeah.
But Gabbard's on there as well too.
Really?
Yeah. And I liked Tulsi for a long time, but then, sorry, I'll get back to him. So then I ran into a couple of things that just didn't make me feel uneasy about him. And then that list came out when Pelosi was talking about all the trading and this, that, whatever. And somebody compiled a list. I'd pull it up now. I can't remember. I don't even know if I could find it, but somebody compiled a list of basically all of the like money that the people in government, like Congress members, have made from like trading and whatnot on the markets. Oh, let's see if I can pull some trading profits. And because it was during the whole Pelosi debacle, and then you realize that she's made a ton of money. I hate that. I ain't paying to read the New York Times. And somebody put a chart together. I don't remember where it was at, but there's a couple people above Pelosi, but literally Crenshaw was like right there neck and neck with how many millions of dollars him and Pelosi have made.
We need to start
stock trading,
following his trades then, man. I'll just make the same trades.
Right. Well, that was the funny thing. Did you hear? So there was a Twitter account called Pelosi Trades or something, something like that.
Took it down.
Yeah, they took it down. Like, what? Why would we take that down? That doesn't make any sense. Man, I wish I would have saved that. I need to save all of those that I take. I wonder if I took it in a screenshot because it was pretty wild. Like how much money he's made and like Pelosi and some of these members of Congress have made. And it's like, I feel like that probably shouldn't be a thing. The whole insider trading, like you have knowledge that just doesn't make sense. Like that probably should not be a thing that you can do. And I'm very against that. Oh, here it is. I found it on my phone. I can't pull it up. So we have members of Congress. This is what it is that beat the S&P, the SPY, which is like the S&P 500 index in 2021. And I don't know this the Republicans take up the first 5 positions: Austin Scott, Brian Mast, French Hill, John Curtis, and Dan Crenshaw, and then Nancy Pelosi. And it's like a huge list of all of these Congress members and how much they beat the gains of the S&P 500 by. And I think maybe we talked about that at one point, but like how I think I talked about Chad when it was just me and him the one day, that how like the S&P 500 just keeps going up because it just has to, because there's no other place people can put their money. So like they beat the S&P 500 by it was like 4 times. So it's like, that's awfully suspect. So for him to be at the top of the list, I'm like, all right, this is not another good notch in his belt of like me feeling good about him.
Yeah.
So with that, and then I don't know, Tulsi's she's been on like Fox and stuff a whole lot. She's been really out there talking about this. And not that like I think that like a Democrat shouldn't be able to go on a conservative, news channel ever. Like I think that's a good thing to be able to talk to, but I don't know. It just she's not in government right now.
Yeah.
And she seems like she's really interjecting herself in a lot of this stuff. And maybe she means well, but it's a tad bit concerning. So I don't know. And I don't know. It's just so hard. I don't know what to think anymore. That's the problem. I have no idea. Like who are you supposed to trust in government? I mean, that's a fucking silly question, but that's the problem. Like, I don't know. I think maybe like we've talked about, if we could get to a point where government officials can't make money from companies, like pay them more. Maybe if we paid government officials more and restricted what they could do, maybe they'd actually do their fucking job instead of just trying to make money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Doubtful.
No, but that's the thing. Like, and anybody who doesn't want to play the corporate game or the money game, the geopolitical fuckery game, well, then they just don't let them into office. Basically.
Yeah.
So it's just like, how do we fucking fix this system? I don't know if it ever can be. But it makes you realize that, like, why giant civilizations have fallen over time so quickly. Yeah. Because you go through time and it's like, so they get too much power, too much money, and it corrupts them, and they just get in this wheel of, I don't know, just corruption and their own, undoing. It's just, anybody who sits down and watches TV shows for the entertainment, I'll tell you what, if you spend a little time and dug into what's actually going on around the world, it is far crazier and entertaining than most TV shows, honestly. Like, I never watched House of Cards or anything like that, but like stuff like that. I remember there was one show I used to watch where it was like, I can't remember what it was though. It was this lady that was I think she was like an attorney in DC or something like that. And it was just like scandals and all this, that, whatever. I'm like, I think the wife was watching it. And I was watching, I'm like, well, this is like a real, like, this is basically what happens every day in DC. Yeah. Like, it's just all fucking corruption and scandals and people fucking paying people to do shit. Like, I guess all of that being said, I do have a little bit of hope that if we can come out of this with some kind of freedom intact, which, cross my fingers, that I think a lot of these people in these governments and corporations that have been, I think they've been doing this forever. I mean, I that's a pretty fair assessment. Everybody, like, there's been corrupt governments since the beginning of time. That technology is far outgrowing these geriatric fucks capabilities of keeping up with it. Sorry, it's a little abrasive, but like, I think they're just like, they think they've been in power for so long, they've had so much control that we are entering a stage. And I think COVID honestly helped us realize it, that we're entering a stage where they can no longer completely control the narrative and everything else. And people are starting to wake up and see those things. When you see these officials, locking everybody down, you have to, putting masks on your kids at school, which I get the arguments for it, but then they're there visiting the school, taking a photo op with no mask, and all the kids, or, governors and stuff are going out having parties, or, Boris Johnson, the prime minister of whatever, is partying. It comes out he was partying with his staff all through COVID while they were talking about lockdowns and all this stuff. And it's like, you realize that, like, this, the facade, it's just all it is, just a giant facade. And it's like, I think maybe there is a great awakening coming. Now, I hate using that word because, lizard aliens, but maybe there is a portion, like, we are able to see stuff and fact check stuff in real time so quick now, where typically, like, all the propaganda and stuff coming out with Ukraine, maybe it's not even necessarily propaganda like for them, but like the pictures and stuff going, wait a minute, you use this picture and this was to represent what's going on in Ukraine right now, but this picture was taken 2 years ago.
Sure.
Stop. Maybe if nothing else, if we can start cleaning up those edges and getting real reporting and journalism back and real story, like, telling, then, and there's so many individual people out there doing it, that maybe these people start realizing that they can't cover up their bullshit forever. Or we just get into a hot nuclear war with Russia and it doesn't matter because we destroy everything.
I hope that we don't do that.
I don't know, like, where else do you see this going, Tone? Where do you, I don't know. I think that's the hardest part. I can't make heads or tails.
I don't think it's going to last that much longer. The Russian-Ukraine thing.
No, you don't think so?
No.
What do you think the whole purpose was?
I don't.
Do you think there was a purpose behind it?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know that we'll ever know.
Well, so I will say this. I didn't cover this part too, because I think this is interesting. While if Putin really is invading and just like, because now there's reports coming out that they're like bombing like apartment buildings and shit. If that's happening, obviously there's no reason, there's no justification for that. But
no, I mean, that's what Glenn kind of said. He was like, dude, if they wanted to like annihilate Kiev, like they could do it in a heartbeat. Like, why are they not? They're seemingly very strategic about a lot of the spots that they were engaging.
Right.
And I don't know what those spots are, but
yeah, I mean, they've hit like the ports, and there's been reports that they've hit like the air bases and stuff like that. I've seen some reports of actual journalists like on the ground saying, "Hey, we're outside." Well, you can't tell. It's like, "Hey, we're on the perimeter of this airport right now." Yeah. These are Russian soldiers. I just talked to them, and they just took over the air base. But apparently, there's Ukrainian force coming in right now. Like, I'd love to believe these people, but I think that's the point. Is like I look back over the last 2 years, I don't trust a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Like news outlets tell me, right wing, left wing, whatever, unless I can see, like, give me what you got, and I'll go from there. But if what you got has a title with a picture on it from 2 fucking years ago, trying to persuade my mind into thinking, well, you right now just fuck off with everything you just say in this article, because now I know you are actively trying to mislead me, whether you're doing it on purpose or not. That's what's happening. So either use a picture that's recent, or don't use one at all, because that is very active, like persuasion, mental persuasion, for sure. But yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I do know that it just seems weird that he would just go in there and just start lighting motherfuckers up like that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. And I had to I had to do some digging to understand, like, why is this happening? Like, what's Putin's, like, why is he doing this? And I kind of get where he's coming from. Not, like I said, not like the actual actions, but him being upset by what's going on, because it seemed like that could be way off here. But what I gathered was that, everyone's pushing Ukraine to be part of UN.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, well, yeah, why wouldn't we want people to be part of this great, collection of nations and, come together and work together? Well, when Russia looks at that and goes, well, we have this country that's, if he thinks it should be part of, mainland Russia, whatever, and all these, it's a resource rich area, and now you want them to be part of UN, but being part of UN also means we can put forces there. So he's looking at it and thinking, oh, great. Like, you want to taking this country and to be like under your umbrella so you can put forces on my fucking border.
Yeah.
Like, no fucking thanks. Like, let's talk about this. And I think that was what I saw, was that he was trying to have communications and like deliberations about these things.
They just said no.
And they were like, yeah, like, no. So he's like, well, what else am I supposed to do? I think you're threatening me. Yeah. So now I have to protect my borders. I don't know. No, I don't. But that's kind of like,
bro, he pulled the Beavis and Butthead. He said, are you threatening me?
But I mean, that's a legitimate concern from somebody like that. If you look at, especially when you look at the corruption that we have been a part of in the United States, you look at the Iraq-Afghanistan war. We spent 20 fucking years there. For what? It wasn't for what they said it was. I guarantee that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the whole weapons of mass destruction thing. I think that's pretty much been hashed out that was all fucking fake. And we fucking knew it. The people orchestrating the whole thing knew it was fake. So it seems like it's kind of hard to believe. And they're like, oh, we got to get these guys now. And at the same time, we have old Mohammed bin Salman, sorry, MBS, for Saudi Arabia. Like, we've talked about the dissident and Jamal Khashoggi. Like, oh, we don't mind if they're literally, dismembering people that we say we're protecting in other embassies around the world. Oh, that's okay. We'll work with them. Trump was real cozy with Saudi Arabia, like, and that's okay. But like, oh no, Russia, like it's there's just so much shit. It's sad because you want to be like patriotic and you want to support your nation, but then the people that are fucking running it are all corrupt, just warmongers. And I just saw this morning Germany announced that it was upping their defense financial or defense support by like 2% GDP, which makes them the third highest military spender in the world now.
So total, they're spending 2% of what?
No, they increased to.
No,
Yeah,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
But that's the thing. Like that's the thing you think about. Like every single year, the one U.S. budget that continues to increase is military.
Yeah. What better way to increase that by thinking, hey, there's going to be more threats,
more wars.
The war machine.
It is. It's a war machine. And then you realize like all the stats. Like I saw Obama. It was funny how Obama like put the statement out and was like, hey, we need to do this, that, whatever. And people were just like lambasted him. Like you dropped. I think it was like during his presidency. I think it worked out. It was every 20 minutes he dropped a bomb on somebody during his 8 years. Every 20 minutes it worked out. Like obviously that's not. Yeah. But the amount of bombs and the amount of time, it was every 20 minutes he dropped a bomb on somebody. Drone strikes killed innocent civilians around the world. But he's looked at as one of our greatest presidents. Like otherwise, great speaker, seemed like a nice guy. He was very statesman-ish or whatever. But like, I think that was one of my personal conflicts with Trump was this guy is a fucking asshat. And if he would just shut his mouth and be a little more like statesman-ish, he'd be a lot better off.
Yeah.
But if someone's able to be more like, if someone's able to be that like salesman, well, fuck, you're just an actor and you're just all the other politicians. You sound real good when you're talking, but you turn out to be a fucking asshat.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you see those memes now where people are like, those mean tweets sound real good right now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want the mean tweets. He's such a fucking child, but we also didn't get any new wars. We didn't get it out of any necessarily, but we sure as fuck didn't get into a war with fucking Russia. I feel like I was saying that last year. Like, let's not get into a war with fucking Russia or China.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a wild world out there. Just, I don't know what to do with it. Oh, and he also keeps talking about denazifying Ukraine. And there were reports like in 14 and 15 that, was it John McCain like met and like gave a speech at like some like literal like neo-Nazi like faction in Ukraine. And they made him like a presidential advisor without him even knowing it and some weird shit. Like, I think it'd be fair to say this, talking to Glenn before and how he said on the show, I think it's fair to say that to think Ukraine as a whole, like governmental wise, I don't think that's a word, is like altruistic and, all for good and they're not corrupt would be kind of silly. I think most governments have levels of corruption in them for sure. And when he mentioned before that he thinks like Ukraine's changed a little bit than from when he grew up there.
Yeah.
But obviously like it's not the US.
True.
It's not whatever. I think we have to remember that we like to put like the superhero movie mindset on real life. Really, you know what I mean? It's one faction has to be evil and the other faction has to be good because that's how it works, right? That's how life works. Good and evil. Like it's always good versus evil.
Oh, I figured it was evil and evil.
Yeah. So I had that conversation with somebody. I said, you know what? I said, I feel like this isn't some kind of random nut flexing like land grab by Putin. I said, I feel like there's something going on here.
Yeah.
Like, because they said, well, I don't know if Putin's the bad guy here. And I said, I think there might be both a little bit of bad guys and they might be both a little bit of good guys. It's just all on your perspective.
Yeah.
And I think we lose that. Most people are not all good or all evil. It's a mix.
True.
We're a mix of both. And the decisions we make from those are a mix of both. we could try to make our decisions as good as possible, but sometimes if you have ulterior motives or whatever behind them, like sometimes things get a little muddled. It's gonna be. You don't think it's gonna last long? You think it's gonna?
I don't think it's gonna last.
What do you think it's
long.
gonna? Do you think they're gonna end up pulling out? I don't know if I see that happening.
I don't know about pulling out, but I think that they might like carve out a piece of Ukraine.
So? Mm-hmm. There's not gonna be much though if they take the ports.
Yeah, or they might just take all
half
of Ukraine.
Of
yeah,
I can see them taking half of it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so weird.
Or for a certain period of time, or some sort of a treaty that basically says like, we're going to occupy this up until here, but it's under the understanding that you're not going to join NATO.
Right. It's interesting because some of it. I don't know. It's just so weird. And that's the thing is like, I have no idea. Like as much as I know the vast majority of the vast majority of my knowledge of Ukraine comes from Glenn. And I think that's a point for a lot of Americans is 90% of everything has nothing to fucking do with what this is going on right here. Yeah. And even then, we can't take what we're seeing at face value.
Sure.
That's important, is we just can't. Like there's no way. Unless you know somebody there, unless you know this footage is, legit, like, because even like the tank, they talk about the tank running over the car. Like some people are like, well, that was Russian, or some people are like, well, that's actually a Ukrainian tank, or like the fighter jets or the helicopters. It's like, oh, well, that one. Like, there's so much. It's just, I think, I don't know, maybe the best thing we can do is look at like individual level of, hey, like, we have to come together and not let the same thing happen to us on an individual level of being, hoodwinked into thinking these ridiculous things about political people or things that are happening, and just open up our eyes a little bit to really contemplate and understand the situation before we go out there hooting and hollering about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Bitcoin, bro. That's the way. It's the way out of it. They've been talking about that too. Like, they're trying to bring that in because they've been putting sanctions on their central banks and everything, and and now that's what it was. That's what I was gonna say. I thought it really weird because I saw a bunch of reports from people supposedly in Ukraine going, "I can't believe we still have internet and access right now," and it's like, well. And they keep talking about the enhanced risk for cyber attacks there and abroad. That's been put, like, how many times I've sent you a couple articles over the past few months, right, about cyber attacks and how it's going to ramp up. And now that's one big talking point for this going on right now is.
You feel like they're going to stage something that makes it look like Bitcoin could actually get hacked, or?
I don't know necessarily about Bitcoin, but I think one of the gravest concerns that we have as a worldwide civilization right now is our grid, and I mean that as in our technology grid, everything being brought down. Because I don't think. Jeez, how rude! What is that? How rude of me! I don't know what's going on there. But I think that's probably the most underestimated risk to humans as a whole is a war like that where it shuts down our technological grid.
Yeah.
Because it's so intertwined and it's so fragile.
Oh, yeah.
And people just don't realize it. Like that, I don't know if I sent you that, or you saw that one, there was a solar flare. Maybe we talked about it, I can't remember.
Yeah.
There was a solar flare that happened on like
other side of the.
Yeah, as we're doing the rotations around the sun, there's this giant fucking solar flare that we haven't seen in like a long time. Like if we would have been in the wake of that, or if like we're in the wake of one of those comets that come down and hits, like, like people just don't realize how fragile our infrastructure is around everything. The internet, like electricity. We talked about before. Man, especially in fucking America.
Yeah.
A week Could you imagine a week without without electricity?
Like everyone
coast to coast.
Oh yeah, it'd be all sorts of bad.
How many people you think would die?
A lot. A whole lot.
A ton.
Yeah.
Some of them just because medical reasons.
Yeah.
Right. Like we forget how dependent we are on refrigerators or, electricity running like oxygen machines or any of those things. Like you realize like that type of toll.
Well, dude, that, and I mean, if you're a week and you don't have generators and I mean, your phone's going to die. So then if you have medical emergencies too.
Yep. And then heat.
Yeah.
In the middle of winter, like in the middle of summer, you're going to have some people go because of medical things. Yeah. But in the middle of winter, you take electricity out, like most homes now, like even if you have a furnace, it's a gas furnace or whatever, like guess what? You need electricity to run the blower.
Pilot, yeah.
Like all those things. Like people just don't realize that like how fragile our entire society is with that. I even saw there are like lines now in Russia because of all of the sanctions on the banks, people lining up trying to empty the ATMs of cash because they can't, like if you can't run, because if they kicked them out of the SWIFT network, like all these different things, like you can't run these digital networks if you're being, blocked off. So you need cash. If you don't have the access to cash, what are you going to do? Like, yeah. And even then, if everyone goes right now and tries to get their cash, guess what? It's not there. And what's it stand for? Like nothing. Like you try to go to your bank today and pull. I mean, you obviously don't do this, but if you try to go to the bank and just walk in there and be like, yeah, I need 50 grand in cash.
Oh, dude, they'd be like, well, we can get that to you in like 2 weeks, probably.
Yeah. Like not happening. And then you know what they're also going to do with it? They're going to report it that you're pulling out. Was it anything over $10,000 in cash? They have to report it. Like there's so many much red tape and like people just don't realize. So like,
is it pulling it out or is it just depositing it?
I think it's pulling it out.
Is it?
Yeah. I think any type of transaction. I think it's any type of transaction over 10 grand has to be like,
I know it's depositing it for sure.
Yeah. I think it's either. I thought maybe not, but even then getting the cash, like 10 grand in cash. I mean, most banks don't have that.
Yeah.
I bet that's really pushing I bet that's pushing
the limit. It is because I've tried to get pay for a vehicle in cash and they were like, oh, we don't have that much.
We don't do that. Yeah. What do you mean? You don't have my money that's in my account at your bank? You don't have it there?
Yeah. No. And then when I went to pay for the vehicle in cash too.
Oh, they're like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah. Then they just didn't want it. They didn't want. They're like, yeah, we don't want that. Go get us a cashier's check or something.
Yeah. It's so like when you realize that, it's like, oh, like if we're put in a situation that electricity doesn't work, well, like I've been to places where you go to a store, power outage. Oh, well, our power's out, or our internet's down.
Here's cash. Figure it out in your head.
Yeah, here's cash. Well, we can't. Or like the drawers won't open because they're electric. Stuff like that where you just don't realize like how quickly, like, and people think like I made the joke I was doing some of the work and someone was talking about they had this electric generator. It's basically like a mobile like solar power unit. It was really, really neat and really powerful. But it was like someone was like making fun of her being a prepper. And I said, whoa. So there's a big difference between being a prepper and being prepared.
Sure.
And, it's like having a first aid kit and, a flashlight, some food, water, some heat source in your car. Like that's being prepared.
Yeah.
Like having a food source and a heat source for a couple days or a week or a month, like all that stuff at your house, that's being prepared. Like, because you don't realize you take out the electrical grid or anything like that for more than 3 days, most people are in real fucking trouble. And that's the scary thing. So I don't know. You look at the cyber attacks and what happened was it last year or the year before with the pipeline deal?
Yeah.
It was a cyber attack, and which I still question that one. I think that might have been a false flag.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of times where I'm like, ooh, that was a false flag event. I don't like doing that because you can get into real murky water with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that might have been a false flag because that was hackers hacked into the pipeline, shut it down, and they ransomed it for Bitcoin, Well, anybody who knows what they're doing with Bitcoin knows that like once you get it, it's yours. Like you can't.
Yeah, and they didn't even ask for that much. I don't think.
No, it says a couple $1 million or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, relative, it wasn't very much.
Yeah, for shutting down the whole eastern seaboard, or not the whole eastern, but a lot. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, the feds they were able to hack it and get it out, and they were able to recover the Bitcoin. I'm like, I saw that and I was like, what the fuck? Like, no, they weren't. Like, no, like anybody who's smart enough to be able to hack something and be able to like ransom a giant portion of the United States for an asset or a Bitcoin that you can't, like, we won't get into that. We've had those discussions, but like people will send me like, oh, Bitcoin got hacked. I'm like, no, it didn't. Let's read the story. It didn't get hacked. They had it here. They had it here. Like they had it on these exchanges, these places that were able to be hacked. Like, but you just can't do that. So if you understand the technology, like that would have never happened. Never. Like you don't pull off that big of a heist. It's like it'd be like Oceans watching Ocean's 11. They steal all the money and then they like pile it onto flatbed trucks right outside of the bank. And they just like loading it right there as the cops pull up. Like you went through all of that shit to just show no, you don't just show your hand like that. Like this is not how it works. So something just seemed really off about that. So I will make this prediction that we are in for some, if people are willing to continue to stand up against corrupt governments and stand up for their freedoms and be concerned. And I don't mean this in any type of violent way whatsoever.
Just driving trucks, bro.
Yeah. I think we are in for some more tumultuous years with hacking and cyber attacks and false flags and gaslighting and all those fun keywords, fancy words, as much as I hate to use them. But what else is there?
Yeah.
I think maybe the false flag attempt, the false flag action that because you remember our government was saying like, oh, there's gonna be this false flag event that Russia's gonna do. Did you hear that? They were saying our government was saying, well, there's gonna be this false flag event. And like, well, what like evidence do you have? Well, we have intelligence that says that they're gonna do this thing. And like this reporter was like, yeah, but like what evidence do you have? Like, well, we have intelligence evidence that says that this is going to happen. And the reporter was like the CIA guy or whatever he was. I can't remember. I wish I would have had it pulled up because it was funny. Guy's like, well, he's like, I just gave you the evidence. He's like, no, you just told me what you
just keep repeating.
Yeah, you just keep repeating yourself. Like that's not evidence. You saying you have evidence is not having evidence. Like, where is the evidence? Like, what do you have? Well, we have intelligence. He's like, no, like, and the guy goes, he's like, look, I'm sorry you're not happy with the format. And the reporter goes, it's not the format. He goes, it's the information I'm getting. It's just like, dude, like, that's where we're at. Like, the government has done so long. I think it's just, they've said, hey, this is what it is because we have an intelligence that says this is what it is. So believe us. And we're like, oh, they have intelligence. Oh man. Like, this is the most powerful military in the world. They have what intelligence? Well, it's intelligence. Just like it's misinformation, Tony. But what is it? It's misinformation. Yeah, it's intelligence that we have. So believe us.
I'm going to try that at the bank next time I want to get a loan. I'm just going to be like, I have millions. And they're like, well, let me see it. No, I told you I have millions.
Yeah, I told you. It's there.
It's there. I have it.
It's there. Trust me. Yeah. I think that's the hopeful thing. As sad as it is, what gives me a little bit of hopefulness is I see more and more people being skeptical of the information they're being fed.
True.
Because anytime you're being fed something, well, it's being given to you for a purpose. Do with it what you will.
Speaking of fed, I need some food, bro. I'm dying.
Yeah. Quick, I told you we we're going to quick little banger, but I didn't want to do crazy, and that way we don't have to really get into it. But I think it's, later, because we got some fun episodes coming up. But there's just so much stuff that just doesn't make sense. Don't believe everything you see. I'll go back. How about this? We can wrap this up with supposedly my grandfather always used to say, never believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. And that pertains to this podcast as well. Question everything.
Cool.
Fuck. Thank you for joining us today. Remember, check out the website, chronic-curiosity.com, to join us at the forum, have some fun, interaction, pick you up a comfy t-shirt, or if you just want to support the show and donate, all that is on the website as well. Thank you. Until next time. See you.